What is going on, everyone? It's Miguel here. So today we are coming at you with the top 5 things that you are going to need as a new realtor in a shifting market. Now, what I can give you guys is these are my personal top 5 things that I believe every realtor should have, and I'm gonna voice this now. None of these require money. Essentially, it depends where you are, like based on the CRM and stuff like that. Find a company, okay, like just to start everything off with before we even get into anything, find a company that is going to support you with all these things so you don't have to pay for any of it. Because I'll be 100% honest, you can get your first listing without putting any money towards it. Now, you might want to put like photos and stuff, and if you get a buyer, that's also free, right? All this stuff you can get for free. You don't have to do internet leads or any of that stuff. There is ways to do this for free, as I have started out and gotten success through that way. So if you guys want to know a bit of a background on myself, I am a realtor in Ontario, Canada, London, Ontario, and I started out back in April. So I started out right when the market started shifting, and I personally have experience being a new realtor in a shifting market. And now that I'm about 7-8 months in, I can kind of give you guys some biased feedback based off of my own personal experience leading into this and having some success throughout. Okay, so what I want to kind of cover again is the top 5 essential things that I believe every realtor needs in this market and what we all need to focus on. Because being a realtor, there's going to be a ton of things, especially depending on the brokerage you're going to. You might have different realtors having different perspectives. You're going to have a ton of things flying at you at once, especially when you start out, when you're like getting a new email. I remember for me personally, I was hesitant to go door knocking for the first like 2 weeks to a month because I followed a script that said, do you want a market update? And I had no clue how to give people market updates. And there's also things like switching back and forth with emails. Like the first little bit is very like compact, and then once you get over that little bit and you start figuring out the technology side of it, it becomes a lot easier, right? But I think the main thing a lot of people can struggle with right now is people don't know how to navigate a shifting market. And if you're not going to take a proactive approach in being a realtor in a shifting market, this will hurt you, and you're going to be out of this business in a matter of months, 1 to 2 years maybe, depending on where your backup money is. If you want your first transaction within your first 6 months, you need to be going out there doing open houses every single weekend, door knocking, whatever it may be. Or if you live in the States, I personally do not have the luxury of living in the States and having your very hot lead sources like the for sale by owners and the expireds. We do have for sale by owners, however, it's very scarce, and it's not like a legitimate source in the fact that if we want to reach out to for sale by owners, we have to find them on Kijiji, and there's maybe a new for sale by owner a week, I would say. Like it's very scarce, and usually they don't have a true motivation to sell, usually. However, I kind of digress. I am potentially having a new listing coming up in the next couple of days. That is a for sale by owner. I met with him. He was interviewing other agents. However, I did get something on paper, so we'll see where that goes. Anyways, I'm sidetracking a bit, but I think that was necessary to bring out before I start running through any of these 5 things that I've written out. And let's just jump right into the top 5 things that I believe you truly need as a new realtor in a shifting market. And before I just jump into these things, I just want to go over that before I even started, months before I started, I made sure I had the right path paved for me to begin with. I got a mentor for my brokerage, and I also practiced scripts and dialogues, like wrote these out like hours a day before I even got my license. So by the time I did get my license, I had that path paved for me and going. Obviously, there was stuff I had to learn, like certain objections you're going to learn on the job. You're not going to be able to learn certain objections like this, for the most part, without doing the job, okay? A lot of this experience comes from the job, but having your scripts and dialogues, the necessary ones, down pat is going to help you. You're going to be leagues ahead of people that are already in the business, and I can tell you that firsthand, okay? So if you are a new realtor and you haven't started out just yet, I'm going to recommend this first part you start now. And number 1 is going to be your scripts and your dialogues. Okay, so scripting and dialogues is 100% necessary right now. If you are not doing scripting and dialogues, you need to do this now. At least half an hour a day. Join a script, get a scripting partner, okay? So with a scripting partner, you want to like write out your own scripts or get them from somewhere, and then role play. At least 10 minutes a day on each side. Get together, like kind of mastermind them for 10 minutes, and then 10 minutes aside, just role play with a partner, half hour in the morning. Me personally, I do about an hour and a half of scripting every single day. Leading up to it, before I even got my license, I did anywhere from 3 to 6 hours of scripting. I took the big jump of getting out of my job before I got my license because I knew going into this market, no matter where it was, at the time of actually getting my license, the markets kept going way on an uprise. So for me, I kind of took that all aside and I decided, hey, I'm just gonna, I have no sales experience, whatever. I am going to do whatever it takes. I read a lot of books and I scripted for 3 to 6 hours a day. Okay, like there were some days where I literally scripted for 6 hours. I'd write out my own scripts and I would just have the dialogues. Once you start and you have your scripts down, it's very important to understand that once you are going face to face with a client, that's the real world. You want to be well versed and not have to think about the next thing. That's the big thing, is not having to think about what's the next thing to say to the prospect. You're going to have much better conversion when you understand. I'm gonna lay out the top scripts you should probably understand. So you're going to have way better conversion if you know your listing presentation. B, you know common objections like what's your commission, like that kind of stuff. I need to think it over, how to better understand that and how objections work. Objections are structured where you would agree, repeat, and ask another question. If you can understand that way, it's going to really help you when you're coming into new objections. Understanding the structure is going to help. And then when it comes to, maybe if you're doing door knocking, understanding your door knocking script, right? You want to have that down pat. So by the time you're in front of that prospect in real life, you're obviously going to have some nerves if you haven't done it before. However, if you know it, it's going to help a lot when you understand the script, like in the back of your mind. This way it just comes off as a nice conversation and you're going to get more leads because people will start to trust you as you're on the phone or whatever, right? Knowing the right thing the moral of the story is knowing the right things to say is really just going to help your lead conversion. Okay, again, this is probably the biggest one. If you do not script practice or you're not familiar with your scripts and dialogues, you don't have a listing presentation for this market, you're really going to struggle. So the first thing I'm going to recommend, scripts and dialogues, have those solid. And again, if you're not yet licensed, start them right now, like as early as you possibly can. It could be a year out till you get your license, depending on where you are. Start your scripts and dialogues, because by the time you have your license, you should be like this. And then people at your you'll be ahead of people at your brokerage, 100%. I can say this by firsthand experience, right? So that's number one, scripts and dialogues. Number two is have a CRM. So this kind of circles back to going to somewhere like Keller Williams, where they'll provide you with Command. Command is absolutely free and it's great. You set tasks and follow-up systems for certain people. It'll provide you with the market updates depending on their neighborhood, stuff like that. At the very minimum, you're going to want something to be able to follow up or touch base with someone. I just want to say right now, when you're out with a prospect, and don't say I'm going to follow up with you, just following up with you, say touch base. Okay, so that's how you want to translate that to a prospect or a potential client. But number one thing is have a CRM. Okay, so a way to follow up with someone. I forget what the percentage was. I think it was 87%. We kind of went over this at a Traverse City seminar, but I believe it's about 87% of real estate agents right now do not have a CRM. So if you're touching base with someone on a frequent basis, your conversion is going to go way up, right? My recommendation is understanding their time, you first need to understand their time frame, and understanding where they're at, then you can follow up with them on a certain basis, right? I usually provide monthly market updates for these people. We'll provide newsletters, and if they're less than a year out, I'll usually call them once a month, unless they further ask me not to call them, right? The thing I want to say is that you can never follow up with someone enough. You can follow up with someone not enough, okay? I've experienced multiple times where I'll call someone, and then, not a lot of times, but I have experienced it where I've forgotten to touch base with someone I may have gotten in my database from when I first started, didn't have a proper follow-up system set up for them, and I called them and they were already under contract. This happened like a month ago. Again, mistakes like that, but number one thing, make sure you have a proper CRM system. If you're going with Keller Williams, that's Command. Use Command, it's absolutely free, and it's going to help your lead conversions. You can also set up like opportunities, like when they could convert, and when you have an appointment set, it's great, right? So that's number two, having a CRM. Number three would be having a plan and sticking to it solid. So what I mean by that is a lot of realtors have an issue with shiny object syndrome. This means you try one thing out. There's no such thing as try in real estate, okay? You don't just try, door knocking for 2 weeks or a month and you're like, oh, it's not working. And then you go to internet leads or whatever, and then it's not working. You're like, oh, it doesn't work after a month. No, if you do that, you're done. Okay, the biggest point of having a plan and sticking to it is actually following a plan and sticking to it. Okay, you can find like structured plans through. I found an initial plan when I started, which was Mike Ferry's. It's in his six-figure income book or whatever it's called, How to Make Six Figures in Real Estate. He has a literal plan in the back of the book that says a 90-day superstar challenge. You do 40 contacts a day, 20 doors, 20 cold calls, and then if you're in the States, you can do it for sale by owners and expires. At least stick to one strategy of, you're either going to do like outbound calls like calls and door knocking. You can do a mixture of those. It's fine. It's basically the same thing because you can't always door knock, right? For me personally, in the summer, I do door knocking, and then if it's raining, I might do calls, or if I've done enough doors, it's okay. I'll probably do something else more organizational, but you can do a mixture of calls and door knocking, okay? Don't go and try door knocking for a month because I'll be 100% honest, if you're in Canada, our best way is to do door knocking. If you're in the States, you can have your instant conversion lead sources, okay? The thing you need to understand is that when you're doing something like door knocking, this having a plan and sticking to it is going to be 100% relevant because you're going to start door knocking, and then after, it took me 5 months to get my first listing from door knocking. It literally took me 5 months because no matter how good you are at it and how many people you're talking to, it's going to take time because you got to think you're walking into someone's world out of complete blue. And then when you do find them, they're almost always never going to be ready. I have yet to find someone at the door that's ready. And when they are, they kind of double back on their plans, especially in a shifting market. And that's where you have the follow-up system for them. Okay? Door knocking, don't expect a listing for at least 6 months to a year. It's normal. You got to trust the process. This all revolves around trusting the process and sticking to it because you're going to have a lot of things where people, like internet nowadays is filled with stuff that's going to come at you from left to right. Stick to your plan, have your blindfolds on, you're going to see success. Just trust the process, okay? So that's number 3, having a plan and sticking to it. Number 4 I wrote down is, this is huge. Schedule and time blocking. This is huge right now for anyone that's new. If you're coming from a 9-to-5 job, you are going to have something like this, or even if you're coming from like a contracting job, because I think people with 9-to-5 jobs are better at this than someone that's contracting because you're more used to a strict schedule. The thing is when you're a realtor is that you do not have a boss anymore. So you feel like, oh, I can be like, I don't have to be at door knocking yet, or like you're kind of like slow in the morning, stuff like that. I have Google calendars where it sends me a notification and it blocks my time. Okay. I would say, like, for example, I have scripting in the morning and then from 9 to 12 door knocking, or like 9:15 because I got to drive there, right? Or like 9 to 12 calls, right? And that stays blocked. Like that's how you time block. You just have it set in your, if it's the biggest thing I can kind of go off of is if you don't have a calendar, if it's not in your calendar, it does not exist. So always have something like a Google Calendar, or if you're a paper person, have your paper calendar and write it out and stick firm to your calendar. Always be on your calendar, and then time block things in ahead. Like if you know something's going on moving forward, just put in your calendar because you'll forget about it. Having a schedule and a time block and being firm on that. Learn to say no to people. Like if someone wants to go to an appointment at 11 a.m. in the morning, just tell them no. It can be very hard in the morning, and I'll be honest, I've given up some lead gen time in the morning because I've done a ton of lead gen. But when you don't have your first sale and someone wants to go to a buyer's appointment in the morning and that's when they only can, do you really have an option? Not really. Once you get the ball rolling though, and you can start to say no to more stuff like that, then yes, this is where moving forward, you're going to have this more as a foundation to learn how to say no to certain things that you know aren't as important. Because your 5 jobs as a realtor is number 1, it's lead generation. Number 2 is lead follow-up. Number 3 is negotiating appointments. Number 4 is script and role play. And number 5, I can't think of it. It's written on my board upstairs. I can't think of the top of my head, but negotiating contracts. So if those 5 are not, if it has nothing to do with those 5, I think I missed going on appointments. I may have missed going on appointments, but maybe I didn't. I don't know, but those are the 5 things that you need to just block. I have it literally written in my office space that says if it's not, it has those 5 things written down, and it'll say if this is not if this has nothing to do with it, it doesn't matter. That means if like social media, try to do that like later on, unless you like literally don't want to do that later. Like just try to find some time in your lunch. I prefer taking like longer lunches so I can kind of mix that in, so I don't have to do social media when I'm supposed to be working, right? Lead generation, lead follow-up, and doing contracts or going on appointments, right? And then script and role play. Okay, so that's number 4. Again, schedule and time blocking. Make sure your time, like your lead generation time, all that stuff, the important stuff is held sacred. Again, I would recommend writing out the 5 things: the lead generation, lead follow-up, negotiating contracts. I keep forgetting them off the top of my head. Going on appointments, and script and role play. Make sure those 5 things are blocked out, because those are the most important things. Make sure people aren't intruding on those, okay? So that's number 4. The last one I'm going to go over, there's obviously some more stuff I could go over, but again, these are just the 5 things I personally feel like, and it's none of this costs money, by the way. Number 5 is going to be your vision. Okay, this might cost some money. Number 5 is going to be a vision board and your number tracking. This is again a really big one. So a vision board will cost you a little bit of money. You're going to have to go to Staples and get like a corkscrew board. I have one put in my office where I have the reason. Okay, I'm going to explain why you should have a vision board. The reason why I have a vision board is because as a realtor in a shifting market, new realtor in a shifting market, things are going to get tough and you're going to have some disbelief. Having those things that you have a vision of, like your new home, whatever you're doing this for, right? Like you need to have a purpose through this, right? Having that envisioned helps right in front of your office space will really help you just get through the day and battle any of the negatives that come your way. What I have on my board it's a cork board right above the computer screen. That is a picture of my girlfriend and my dog and I, and we're all sitting at the cottage, and it's a speech bubble that says, go Miguel, like you can do this, right? That's a big inspiration for me because I know who I'm doing it for. It's my family, right? The other one is the Lexus RCF Track Edition. That's the car I'm looking to buy in the next year or so. It's a 1 in 25 car, and I know that that's something I can purchase if I work hard enough, right? Another thing too is a home in a neighborhood that I want to live in. That's there too. The other one is a walk space at a place, my favorite place I like to run to, Meadowley Forest in London. And then the other one is people that have inspired me, like Brian Casella, Jeff Glover, and Frederick Eklund. Like those people have all had huge impacts on how I came up in this industry. And then the other one would be like me on the stage with the Glover U, because I want to be a coach for like Glover U and like be able to share my story. Again, this all circles back to your why. Like, why are you doing this? Your vision board should circumference that, and my why is to propose my story, like to share my story with other people to help them in a world of real estate where there's tons of opinions. And reality is, you stick to one thing, I can help explain that to people, right? So that's part of having a vision board, is having your why set up there and why you're doing this. All that vision board will tell you exactly why you're doing that and help you to remember, hey, I know things are tough right now, but take a look at this. It gives you a reminder to just take a look at that and understand why you're doing this. That's the biggest one. And the other thing I'm going to mix into this is number tracking, because you can have this right in front of you. Number tracking is very critical. The way I can put this is, there's no professional athlete that has not had their numbers tracked. Okay. Now, I've been guilty of this, not correctly tracking my numbers, and now I'm a lot more strict on it. I just set up an Excel sheet where instead of just having it on paper, after the week goes by, I can track my numbers in Excel. It'll tell me like my listing appointment to conversion ratio, the number of contacts I had in the week, all that stuff. If you're not tracking your numbers, you're really not running a business, okay? So understand that tracking your numbers through an Excel spreadsheet, and like doing paper and then transferring over to an Excel spreadsheet at the end of the week, that's what I do. That's going to really help you in understanding where you need to improve, where everything's coming from. Get that set up earlier than later, as soon as practically possible, because having the habit of being able to track your numbers and knowing where all your business is coming from moving forward is going to help you in the years to come. Okay, so I hope you guys like that. That is the 5 things. Again, I'm just going to quickly hover over that. Number 1 is your scripts and dialogues. That's the biggest one, okay? Again, I would prefer, if you already have your license, I'm going to prefer you to do an hour and a half in the morning. If I can tell you how to structure that, half an hour is with yourself, writing out scripts, scripting by yourself. The next half hour is role play, and then like join a group for the last half hour. That's what I do, okay? Like I have a one-on-one role play, and then I have a group role play. And then the first half hour, I'm writing out new scripts or voicing like my listing presentation, okay? The second one would be have a proper CRM, aka command if you're with Keller Williams, follow-up boss, all that stuff. You need that, okay? Number 3 will be having a plan and sticking to it. shiny object syndrome. Just blinders, go. Just door knock. You want to do door knocking, door knock, go. Okay. You want to do cold calls, cold call, go. Put the blinders on. You want to do internet leads, do internet leads. They're going to be more expensive, but internet leads, just go. Just got to trust the process and then study that process for other people. Okay. Number 4 is going to be scheduling and time blocking. Google calendars. That's all I have to tell you. Or if you're a paper person, grab a calendar from like Glover U or something. They have great ones you can use for paper. It'll have your goals, your numbers, and everything. You just plop that right in there, right? And lastly is number 5 is your vision board and your number tracking. Having your numbers tracked is huge, and a vision board is going to help you through tough times as a realtor in a shifting market. Okay, and this is always something you can circle back to and be like, why am I doing this? This is why you're doing this, okay? So I hope you guys like that. That is the top 5 things you are going to need as a realtor in a shifting market. Again, all of this is absolutely free, especially if you're joining Keller Williams, because the CRM is provided free command, right? Again, if you can follow these 5 things, you will see results after your first 6 months. Again, usually takes about 6 months to start seeing results. Some people faster depending on who they know prior, right? From before. Okay, so again, hope you guys like that, and we'll see you in the next one. See you then.